Ask Reddit, what are some of the worst business practices you've seen? Trying to get employees to quit. My managers at fast food didn't want to keep long-term employees due to having to pay them more, and firing them means unemployment costs. Us quitting means no unemployment and not having to give raises. Any company service that allows you to sign up using the internet with minimal verification but requires you to either produce ID, bills, proof of address, or show up in person to cancel that service. If I can set it up via the internet, I should be able to cancel using the internet too. I heard this one from a friend. She worked at a dog kenneling business that would tour prospective clients through the front of the building and show off how each dog would get its own indoor-outdoor run area and specialized attention, etc. Then when Thanksgiving and Christmas came and they got more bookings than they could accommodate, they set up cages and stacked kennels in a back room, and people were paying big dollars thinking that their dogs were in a nice roomy pen while the business crammed as many dogs as they could into these basic cages. It was shameful. I worked at a restaurant that wouldn't let people get a refund on their food even though there was a sea roach in it. Instead, they offered a 10% discount on the food as per their policy. Needless to say, this restaurant no longer exists. I used to serve at a restaurant where we wore pagers that buzzed us when a table's food was ready. Good idea, right? Well, the owners had the policy that you had to immediately go pick up the food no matter what, and that included if you were in the middle of taking another table's order. They said that people understand and are cool with it. Of course they weren't though. Every time I stopped taking a table's order and went and got the food, they were totally pissed off. I could not believe the owners did not understand why literally no other restaurant on the planet does it that way. I use the term business loosely, but I once did graduate research with a professor who was in the process of trying to get a major auto manufacturer to invest in our lab. They liked us, but wanted an example of some of our work, so rather than directing them to some publications of ours, my professor gave them a zip file containing all of our recent unpublished research, including the basis for a patent application. My professor was shocked when they just kept it. So this store put a massive discount on weighted blankets. They were originally selling for $150, but were now being offered for $39.99. The catch? You'd need to sign up for free as a VIP member online. Okay, no harm done. So I signed up and bought the blanket, and so did thousands of other people. The store canceled our orders and refunded our money, claiming that they weren't able to fulfill our orders, and now they had a couple thousand more new names on their mailing list. And sure enough, marketing emails came pouring through. I unsubscribed once but still had emails coming in. Fuck you, Spotlight, Australia. Major banks sorting your transactions when you have a low balance in such a way to maximize overdraft fees. Honestly, overdraft fees in general. Many banks will charge you an overdraft and deny the transaction, because apparently it costs them $35 to deny a transaction. I worked as a food service manager for a large hotel chain. Let's call it Chariot Hotels. The general hotel manager wouldn't approve replacements of equipment unless we were expecting an inspection in the next 2-3 months. The immediate bad effect of this was a lot of negative reviews. Our ice maker broke, so we had to send employees to the other side of the hotel to get ice from an ice machine to make iced coffee, smoothies, etc., resulting in extremely long wait times for iced drinks. We also lost money because a lot of the cold food, like chicken salad, can be made in bulk and stored for a few days in the fridge. Unfortunately, half of our fridges didn't cool properly, so we had to make a lot of foods fresh every day and discard a lot of food. Lastly, I quit when I got tired of requesting repairs that never happened. 2 weeks later, they got an early inspection and an exceptionally bad score for a chain. They passed, but just barely. The general manager blamed it on the former food service manager, me. And I believe she still manages the hotel to this day. I worked for a big car rental company in the returns department. They would push us to find and charge customers for any new damage on their cars by awarding bonuses on top of our monthly salary. We were given mirrors to look for scratches under the cars where customers would normally not have checked before they rented the car, often leading to heated arguments over if it really was their fault or not. The company did not care either way and made us charge their insurance deposit if they refused to pay. The daily verbal abuse and stress from being sandwiched between my managers and angry customers has definitely left a mark on my mental health, and I will probably never work in the traveling industry again. In the town I grew up, there was this guy who ran a music store, the kind that sells musical instruments. He would sell brand new stuff at 50-60% discount. Hell, a friend of mine haggled a brand new Gibson guitar off the shelf for maybe 75% off. I bought several cymbals off him dirt cheap. For you drummers out there, Sabian AA, not crap. Turns out, his family was filthy rich, old money, and running the store was his hobby. You know, just something to do. He would sit there, smoke, discuss which Zappa record was the best, and basically give stuff away. It was awesome, and terrible business. Not as bad as some of the practices in this post, but a local coffee shop owner near me pressures customers into bringing their own cups. Normally I wouldn't mind this, as hey, we all got to do our part to save the environment. Thing is, the owner doesn't do IT for the environment, he does it because he doesn't want to buy takeaway coffee cups. I heard him argue with another customer one day, telling her he's sick of her using his cups rather than her own. The whole thing came off so cheap and tacky, I stopped going there for coffee. If the owner is upset about buying 5C cups, he's probably cutting corners in other places too. I went to an independent makeup store because I wanted to support small businesses, and the shop girl told me I would need a lot of products because I was ugly. I was shook. Like, I know I am no Halle Berry. But ugly? My local Subway and their perpetual stew of meatballs. Every day they make meatballs to be used on their meatball marinara sandwich. But every day they never use all of them, so they put the leftover ones into the refrigerator to be used the next day. This is fine. You can get away with it since it's held in appropriate temperatures during the day and kept refrigerated overnight. The problem comes after they make more. Instead of keeping the old and new batch of meatballs separate, they cook off new meatballs and just add them to the old meatball container. So technically there could be one meatball floating around in there that is months old before it finally gets scooped up and placed on a sandwich. I briefly worked at a FedEx shipping center. The first hour of orientation was basically, if you even think the word union will end your effing bloodline. Burnell Productions in Renton, just outside Seattle, constantly lie, cheat and steal from their customers. When confronted, the CEO pleads poverty and needs money to pay bills. The CEO was declared bankrupt in 2020, wiping the debt he had on 13 credit cards. Meanwhile he, the CEO, also has a condo that he hasn't paid his mortgage on for almost a year. Then there's over $40,000 spent on a mobile game, which he does not acknowledge, because he has an addiction problem. My wisdom tooth operation was effed up, which they under anesthetized me for, so I went back 2 days later. They admitted their fault and that they would fix it there and then, but it would cost me equivalent $500. I said no way, this is your screw up. They eventually agreed. I took the woozy pill they gave me, as it was gonna be big work in there. Operation went as planned, and while I was not even with it, they charged me the money, then booted me out onto the street. I was almost hit by a bus as I had no awareness of anything. Found it all out later on from a friend who happened to be passing and saw me playing with cars on a dual-lane road, and B, an acquaintance in the waiting room who had watched me pay. Ironically, I was there due to their daughter's recommendation. People who sell weed. You text them, ask if they have weed. They say yes. You ask them to meet you or if you can go to them and buy some. They say yes. You ask where or when, etc. They don't reply and you don't hear from them again for a few days. Thank you for watching. Daily uploads.